Hey there, learners. Ever feel like everyone else is hitting the jackpot while you're stuck grinding away?
Yeah, I know that feeling.
Well, today we're ditching that whole get-rich-quick fantasy
Right.
and unpacking how to build wealth the right way. No lucky streaks,
Yeah,
just a strategic mindset.
exactly. We're diving deep into how successful entrepreneurs and investors actually did it,
Okay,
revealing the often overlooked principles they use to build their fortunes.
I like it. So we're like reverse engineering success, right?
Absolutely.
No mystical shortcuts, just practical steps anyone can take.
Exactly. And it all starts by understanding the first trap most people fall into,
Yeah.
the difference between the money game and the status game.
Okay, break that down for us.
Yeah.
Money game versus status game. What's the difference?
So the money game is all about creating value. That means building businesses, solving problems, generating actual wealth. It's positive sum, meaning there are multiple winners.
Okay.
The status game, though, that's all about social hierarchy.
Oh, I see.
Who's up, who's down, often fueled by tearing others down.
So like someone criticizing a successful entrepreneur, not out of genuine concern, but as a way to climb the social ladder.
Precisely. It can actually be harmful to building real wealth. It's a distraction. While someone is busy signaling their supposed virtue by criticizing those in the money game, those actually playing the money game are creating value that benefits everyone.
And the source material really pushes back on this idea that making money is inherently wrong or unethical. Right.
It is.
It argues that ethical wealth creation is about creating abundance, not just redistributing existing wealth.
Right. Think about all the technology we have today that we rely on, from smartphones to the advancements in medicine. These things weren't created by taking money from others. They were created by bringing something new and valuable into the world. That's ethical wealth creation.
So it's about baking a bigger pie, not just fighting over slices of one that already exists.
Exactly. But how do we get into the kitchen, so to speak? It starts by ditching the whole lottery ticket mindset. True wealth isn't about getting lucky. It's about becoming the kind of person who attracts opportunities to create wealth.
Okay, now you've got my attention. How do we become that kind of person?
It's about cultivating the right skills and mindset. It's about gaining specific knowledge, taking calculated risks, making sound judgments. These are the things that draw opportunity to you.
So instead of hoping to just stumble upon that winning lottery ticket, we need to build the skills and knowledge that make us more likely to create something valuable ourselves. No more waiting for a lucky break. We make our own luck. But where do we even begin?
One of the biggest mistakes I see is people constantly trading their time for money.
Yeah.
Real wealth creation comes from owning equity, owning a piece of the businesses or assets you help build.
That reminds me, I was reading something about lottery winners who end up broke. They get that sudden windfall, but they lack the skills or the mindset to manage it or grow it. It's not just about having money, it's about understanding how that wealth is generated and having a stake in its growth.
You're exactly right. It's like that old saying, give a man a fish, you feed him for a day. Teach a man to fish, you feed him for a lifetime. Owning equity, that's like owning the fishing rod. It lets you benefit from the value you create over the long term.
I love that analogy. So instead of just earning a salary, we should aim to own a piece of the value that we create. So that could mean starting a business, investing in real estate, having stock options in the company we work for, right?
Exactly. And that brings us to a crucial concept, leverage.
Okay, I am ready to get levered up. Tell me more.
Well, there are 4 kinds of leverage: labor, capital, product, and media. Labor leverage, that's having others work for you, which can be helpful, but it's limited. Then there's capital leverage, that's using money to make more money. Think investments. But the real game changers are product and media leverage.
So with product leverage, one person can create something once, like software, and then it can be replicated millions of times with almost no extra cost.
Precisely.
Wow.
And with media leverage, think about it. A single podcast episode, a YouTube video, a blog post, these can reach millions of people without requiring any extra effort for each view.
It's about creating something that works for you even while you sleep.
Exactly. That's where the real potential lies. But here's the thing about leverage. As powerful as it can also magnify any failures. That's where judgment comes in.
Judgment. Okay, tell us more about that. Why is that so important?
Judgment is the ability to make good decisions, especially when things are uncertain. It's about accurately assessing risks and opportunities and making choices that will lead to those long-term favorable outcomes.
It sounds like in a world with so much potential leverage, good judgment becomes even more critical.
You're absolutely right. You could have all the leverage in the world, but if you don't have good judgment, you're probably more likely to amplify your mistakes than you are your successes.
So how do we even develop good judgment? Is it something we're born with, or can we cultivate it?
It's definitely a skill. It's honed through experience, through making decisions, seeing how they play out, learning from both successes and failures. That said, we don't have to do it alone. Mentors, advisors, they can be invaluable. And you can also look to the decisions of other successful people. It's about shortcutting that learning curve by drawing on the experience of others.
So we can look for mentors and really study the journeys of those who've already achieved what we're aiming for. And speaking of learning from others, the source material also talks about this idea of specific knowledge. What exactly is specific knowledge, and how does it play into this whole wealth creation equation?
Specific knowledge, it's knowledge that you can't just easily replicate or teach. It's something you gain through real-world experience, deep immersion in a particular field or craft. Think of it as your unique edge.
So it's not just about having a degree or knowing a little bit about a lot of things. It's about developing a really deep understanding of something that other people find valuable.
Yes, exactly. It's what makes you stand out, what makes you indispensable, especially in a world where there's just so much general information floating around.
Right.
Yeah.
Can you give me an example?
Sure. Imagine a chef who, they not only understand all the classic culinary techniques, but they also have this really deep understanding of the nuances of a specific regional cuisine. So they can combine these general skills with this very specialized knowledge to create a dining experience that's really unique and highly sought after.
Yeah.
That's specific knowledge.
It's like finding that sweet spot where your passions and skills line up with what the market actually values.
Yes.
But like you said earlier, judgment is key here, right? How do we make sure we're making good decisions as we go about honing that specific knowledge?
That's where accountability comes in.
Okay.
It's about taking real ownership of your actions, your outcomes, putting your name and reputation on the line.
So no more hiding behind excuses. It's about having skin in the game, taking the praise and the blame for our decisions.
Exactly. It sounds simple enough, but in a world where it's so easy to deflect responsibility, true accountability, that's what builds trust. It builds credibility.
And in terms of wealth creation, why is that trust so important?
Because people are way more likely to invest in you, to partner with you, to give you opportunities when they know that you take responsibility for your actions. It's about becoming that someone others can rely on, someone known for their integrity. Think about it. Who would you rather work with? Someone who owns up to their mistakes, or someone who's always quick to pass the buck?
That's an easy one. I want to work with the person who takes responsibility.
Of course.
It all comes back to that essential ingredient of trust.
Exactly. It's the foundation.
So we've got our specific knowledge, we're honing our judgment, we're embracing accountability. What else should we be keeping in mind as we build this roadmap for wealth creation?
This is where playing the long game becomes super important, because building real wealth, it's a marathon, not a sprint. It's about consistency, sound decisions that compound over time. It's about resisting those shiny get-rich-quick schemes that are always popping up. Instead, you focus on that sustainable growth.
Reminds me of that saying, the greatest wealth is patience. It's about delaying gratification, sticking with it, and not getting sidetracked by every trendy new thing that comes along.
Exactly. Think about it like this. If you're planting a garden, you wouldn't expect to go out the next morning and have a huge harvest ready to go, right? It takes time, consistent effort, the right conditions for your garden to flourish.
Oh, I love that analogy. Building wealth is like cultivating a thriving garden. You need to plant those seeds, which are your skills and your knowledge, nurture them with consistent effort and patience, and over time, you will reap those rewards. You'll enjoy that harvest.
Yes. And speaking of planting the right seeds, choosing the right people to partner with is also essential.
Oh, okay. So we're talking business partners, mentors, maybe even investors. What are those qualities we should be looking for in the people that we bring into our circle?
The source material points to 3 key traits: high intelligence, high energy, and high integrity.
I mean, those sound like pretty valuable traits in any relationship, but let's break them down a bit. Starting with intelligence. Why is that so crucial when it comes to choosing the right people to collaborate with?
Well, when you're building something new, you need people who can think critically, creatively solve problems, people who can adapt. High intelligence, it's essential for navigating the complexities of the world today, especially if you're trying to create something innovative.
Makes sense. You want people on your team who can see the big picture, who can understand these complex concepts and come up with solutions that are actually innovative. What about high energy?
High energy, it's about more than just working long hours, right? It's that passion, that drive, a genuine enthusiasm for the work.
It's that spark. It's contagious. And it's exciting when you see that in other people. But you also mentioned high integrity as a crucial quality. We've talked about accountability, so how does integrity fit into this whole idea of building a strong team?
Integrity, that's the bedrock of trust. It's about being honest, ethical, doing the right thing even when no one's watching. And trust is absolutely paramount when you're collaborating with others, especially when there's money on the line.
Yeah. It's about knowing that your partners, your investors, your team members are all operating from this place of honesty, transparency, shared values.
Exactly. That kind of trust's invaluable in the long run.
So when it comes to assembling our dream team, our winning team, we're on the lookout for people who are not only smart and driven, but they're also ethical and trustworthy.
Absolutely. And remember, the people that you surround yourself with, they're going to influence your own thinking, your own behavior. So choose those partners wisely.
That's great advice for any area of life, not just business. But speaking of business and wealth creation, let's talk about something that can be a bit of a stumbling block for some people, and that is equity. What exactly is equity, and why is it so important when we're talking about building wealth?
Equity, it represents ownership. Ownership in a company, an asset. Think of it like owning a piece of the pie. When you have equity, you are entitled to a portion of the profits, the growth, the value that that business generates over time. And that's where that idea of owning the fishing rod comes back in.
So instead of just earning a salary for your time, you are participating in the upside potential of something that you help to build. And that could mean owning a part of your own business, having those stock options, or investing in real estate.
You got it. That's a key difference between just earning an income and building real wealth. Equity lets you leverage your effort, create something once, and then potentially benefit from its growth for years to come.
That makes a lot of sense. But I think navigating the world of equity can feel really daunting, especially if you're new to all of this.
Oh, for sure. It can definitely feel overwhelming, but it doesn't have to be. Start by just learning the basics. There are so many resources available, online, libraries.
Do your research. Start small. Don't be afraid to ask those questions. There's no shame in seeking guidance from financial advisors or mentors who've already gone down this path.
Exactly. Remember, it's a journey. Building wealth is a journey. And it's okay to ask for help along the way.
This has been incredibly insightful. We've covered so much ground. We've talked about specific knowledge, accountability, judgment, playing the long game, partnering with the right people. Where do we even go from here?
It is a lot to digest, right? But don't worry, it's not about mastering everything at once. Start by focusing on one or two things that really resonate with you and build from there.
It's about taking those small, consistent steps in the right direction.
Yes.
And remember, marathon, not a sprint.
You got it. And on that note, maybe it's time for a quick pause before we go into this final stretch of our deep dive.
Okay, sounds good. Don't go anywhere, learner. We'll be right back to tie everything together and reveal the secret sauce for turning all of this incredible knowledge into those actionable steps so you can start building lasting wealth. Welcome back, learner. Ready for the final stretch of our wealth-building deep dive? We've covered so much from specific knowledge and judgment to the power of equity and playing the long game.
It's a lot to take in, but there's one concept that ties it all together. The source material calls it long-term greed.
Long-term greed. That sounds a little counterintuitive, especially since we've been talking about ethical wealth creation.
Right. It's not about being greedy in the traditional sense, though. It's about recognizing that behaving ethically is often the most profitable strategy over the long term.
So it's about playing that infinite game, building something sustainable, rather than going after those quick wins that might force us to compromise our values.
Exactly. It's understanding that integrity, it attracts other long-term players. I'm talking investors, partners, customers, the people who are going to stick around and actually contribute to your success over time.
That makes sense. To somebody with a reputation for cutting corners or being unethical, they might make some quick cash, but that's not going to lead to lasting wealth.
Exactly. It's about building a reputation that's built on trust, fairness, and delivering real value.
So long-term greed, it's about aligning our ethical values with our long-term financial goals.
Absolutely. It's that understanding that when you focus on creating those win-win situations, you're more likely to find sustainable
It's
success.
a good reminder that doing good and doing well, those things aren't mutually exclusive. In fact, they often go hand in hand.
I agree. And this brings us back to that powerful idea from the source material. Productize yourself.
We touched on it a little earlier, but I'm ready to dig in a little deeper now. What does it actually mean to productize yourself?
It's about taking your unique skills, passions, experiences, the essence of yourself, and finding ways to package them in a way that provides value to other people at scale.
So it's about transforming your knowledge, your skills, your talents into something that can be shared, replicated, scaled to reach a larger audience.
Yes. And that's something. It could be a physical product, it could be a digital course, a coaching program, software, a book. The possibilities really are endless.
It's like taking your specific knowledge and then figuring out ways to leverage it. Create something that works, even when you're not actively working on it.
Exactly. Think about it like this. You are this totally unique combination of skills, experiences, perspectives. No one else has walked in your shoes or learned the exact lessons you've learned along the way, right?
Right.
That's your unique value proposition. That's your specific knowledge.
That's a really powerful way to think about it. So it's about figuring out what makes us stand out from the crowd
Yeah.
and then figuring out ways to share that value.
Exactly. And when you combine that unique value with everything else we've been talking about, the accountability, that good judgment, playing the long game, you have a powerful formula for building real, lasting wealth.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, what's the one thing you want our listeners to take away from all of this? What's that secret sauce that turns all of this knowledge into real, tangible results?
I think the secret sauce is really quite simple. Action. You know, it's not enough to just listen to this and nod along. You have to take action, even if it's one small step today.
So identify that one thing.
Mm.
Maybe it's a skill you want to learn, a connection you want to make, a risk you want to take, and then go for it. Don't let fear hold you back. You deserve to create the future you want.
I completely agree. And as we talked about throughout this entire episode, building wealth, it's a journey, not a destination. Embrace those challenges, celebrate your wins, and never stop learning and growing.
This was a fantastic conversation. Thank you, learner, for joining us on this deep dive into building wealth. It's not about getting lucky. It's about making your own luck through specific knowledge, through ethical actions, and a real commitment to the long game. Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep creating.